Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another program, Straight Talk with Grover Thornton. This program is designed to inform, inspire, to educate, and to let you know how governments, state, local, and national, impact our lives in this nation. This program is produced by our Black media, Mr. Julius Hall, President and Chief Executive Officer. Tonight, we know we're about to move into an election time in this county and city. What I want to say to you was I was supposed to have had one or two people here tonight. I will talk about them because both of these people, Miss Sonia Jackson, she came to my home and we talked about the show and etc. And she called me and said she would be unable to be here tonight because of death in her family. Now, if you were supposed to come on this show and you give me a reason why you cannot come, I am very understanding on that nature. But you must let me know. I'm not God. I cannot judge your thinking and what you do. But after Miss Jackson came, she and I talked about some of the things that she did as commissioner, tax commissioner. And she did a lot of things to improve that office. I told her how what a madhouse it was years ago trying to get a tag. You had to stand in line for 2 and 3 hours. It was unbelievable. And a white lady who became the commissioner, a very fine lady that worked with the Political Advisory Council, Ms. Barbara Kiley. She passed some years ago, but she was a tax commissioner. And I think it was she, somebody after, but I think it was she that started getting your tag by your birthday. That was one of the best moves that ever happened in this city as far as I was concerned, because it was like a war just to get a tag. I'm going to tell you. It would drive you crazy. You get tired of standing hours after hours after hours after hours trying to secure a tag. And she did a lot of good things for the city. Now, also, Ms. Jackson, when I communicated with her, she and I talked about a lot of things she did to improve the office. And I was hoping that she would be here, but she had to go out of the city because of her death in her family. And we can all be understanding about this. But I have in my list here in my hand a list of things. I'm going to read 2 or 3 of these things that she installed in her office. And then I'm just going to have to say it. I'm very straight talk about bringing down black folk against black folk. Because I can go back to the time we didn't have not one single person in a supervisory or control position in City Hall. I can tell you that. The only people you saw in that were people cleaning up and a lady operating the elevator. That's it. And later on, as the Political Advisory Council got stronger and stronger, that we were able to produce excellent people that cared about black folk ways and means in this community. And one of the first person that we really supported for years was Mr. John Recycles of the mayor. And we had great leaders, Mr. W. Law, Mr. Gene Gasson, Attorney Gasson, and others, Mr. James Cawthorn, young man that I think we don't think anything about, but he ran the Political Advisory Council at a great sacrifice that he was trying to build houses or a real estate business. And when he was working with the Political Advisory Council at the NAACP, the white folk refused to loan him money to carry on his business. So his business went down. So a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices and people you don't even know about. So we have made a great strides, and we should not try to be in a position to bring one another down, but to educate us up. My goodness, we never had a mayor. We never had a county commission. We never had anybody on city council. Mr. Bogus Ford was the first person on city council with John Recycles. And next time it was Mr. Roy Jackson of city council. And when it came to the commissions, the Chatham County commissioners, it was Reverend Scott Stale. Broke the ice and became the first black person on the county commissioner. So voting is very, 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 very essential. That's when we get power. That's how we're equal to when you get into a voting booth to cast your ballot. So when I talked with Mrs. Jackson, she said one or two of these things I'm going to read to you. She increased the collection rate of 99% on taxes. That's improved. Some people were not paying the taxes, so I don't know what she put into effect, but people started paying the taxes good, 99%. An increase in tax collection. Another thing she did, she started a process for customers to receive tax bills electronically. She did a lot of things in this office. But I must say that I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to say it. Because I'm very strict about black folk like a bunch of crabs when one going up and pull all of them down. Now, this is what she told me. I don't know the person that's running against her, but what I find is very, very hard for me to understand is that some lady who's running against her worked in the office with her. And after this man Powell left out from that office, because he was in there so long, ever since Pooper was a puppy, for about 24 years. And I understand from her. I'm just quoting what she said to me. There's not no hearsay. I talk directly to the person. That's the difference from hearsay and direct talking. And she said that Mr. Powell and this group of white people are supporting this lady who is challenging her for the tax position. And I hate that. I hate that to be used by white people to undermine one of us in office. And just like I think about the superintendent of the school system, they did a marvelous job. But the guy who was the president had a bunch of white people that didn't vote this woman as superintendent. And they, from what I can understand, that they finance him, all his materials and everything. I can't go for that. Now, if you have a black person in a position that's not doing a good job, then we need to get them out of office, white or black. But why would you undermine? I would never do that. But everybody got their own thinking, but that's my thinking. And Ms. Jackson had done a wonderful job, and too bad she was not here to really to answer a lot of questions that I wanted to ask her. But I'm just repeating some of the things that she said to me in my office as she and I communicated. And as I told you before, stated that she had to leave to go to a funeral in Athens, Georgia. But another thing she did, she opened three locations for taxes: Fort Winford, Bloomingdale, Wimbledon Island. She implemented curbside service at the Eisenhower location. You don't have to get out of your car to pay your taxes. So these are things that improve the service. Then why would you want to get rid of somebody who's doing a job like that? I just don't understand that. And for years and years and years and years, we have not been nothing but taxpayers, no control over anything. And we finally got people into these positions as the mayor, county chairman. We broke the ice on everything except the sheriff's department. Now, Mr. Coleman is running for that office, and I hope he will be successful. He's running against opposition. I called and talked with him the other day, and I said, I can understand, is Mr. Holmes running for sheriff again? I thought it was somebody else, and you're running against Mr. Walshaw, whatever his name is. He said, no, Mr. Holmes. I said, I know what I saw. I said, the median right by the drugstore, Walgreens, is a sign saying Lieutenant Holmes running for sheriff. Somebody, I don't know what reason somebody put that there. Sometimes people do all kind of things, put the name there and say, well, I'm not going to vote for this person. I'm going to vote for this person with the sign. And I don't know why that sign got there. And I called him and asked him about it. And he went to check it out. He told me, but I don't know. I know what my eyes saw. I saw the sign, Lieutenant Colonel Laszlo Holmes running for sheriff. So I didn't want to mention these things about Ms. Jackson because it's very important. To me, she's doing a great job of improving that county position. So you can take that into consideration. I don't come out and endorse anybody, but I have to speak out when I think things are being unjustly done to a black person. That's just me. Because I fought for civil rights since I was 17 years old. And I'm going on 91. So God has been good to me. Extremely good to me. Better than me than I've been to myself. So, but I just have always been a race man. I always look for that day that I will see. My mother and other people's mothers over the years and years never seen a black president. We thought that would never be. But in God's own time, it happened. But it happened because black folk voted. Now they're trying to saying all this, don't fall for all this propaganda. They talk about black folk turning and going to Trump. Well, I got the magazine, one of the magazines I got back in my office, one of them was the Time magazine, with Harper, one of them. And Trump is already nominating people, if he won the presidency, to serve in the cabinet. Now, one black person. Now, how a black person going to talk about they going to vote for him? I'm having no decency, I'm having no character, I'm having no respect, not even for women. And you're going to vote for him. As far as this abortion, that to me, that's a lady's position. And her own right to make a decision about her body. God gave that to her. She only has to answer to him. But like Thurgood Marshall said once on the Supreme Court, that in one of his dissent, talking about the abortion case, that when they passed that law to do away with abortion nationally, and he said this, that you can't have your cake and eat it too. When these people have these babies, you won't stop people from having babies, and when they have them, you don't want to feed them. You get mad with the tax away, they have to take care of them. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. And to me, it's a very complex problem, and that's the problem should be with the person, the female, to make her own decision about her body. That's between her, the doctor, and God. That's what my thinking is on that. But I wanted to talk a few minutes about Miss Jackson, and I'm sorry she's not here to answer any other questions that I had for her. And I wanted to let you know some of the things that she has done. And she's done a lot of good things to make the service better for all the citizens in Chatham County. And the next person I want to talk about is Mr. David Campbell, who is running for a coroner. Now, a lot of people don't understand what that job does at Kerr. And I'm going to tell you, he's not here because of so much crime has been going on in this community over the last couple of weeks. It's a job, a lot of times he doesn't get to sleep. And there are murders, there's shooting going on, and people die. He has to go immediately on the scene, hospitals and everything else. And that's why I've been trying to reach him. And I even called the coroner's office. He's out of the service. He's out of the service. And that is because that's part of his responsibility. And he's been doing a marvelous job. And not only that, I worked with Mr. Davis, Mr. Campbell, on the Civil Rights Board. He and I worked together on that board. I give a Civil Rights Board, and he was an outstanding worker. Not only that, he works a lot of things in the community. And he's established himself. He worked very hard. He's been in the funeral business for about 40-something years. He learned a lot of that stuff. He went to school in Atlanta to the embalming school. He finished the school, and he has a son that's done the same thing. He's running the business, and his wife, and they're running the business while he is doing this particular job. And he has good leadership. Another thing he established, I understand from reading his brochure, he established a morgue. So when somebody died, until they find the persons who are responsible to handle the service, burying the person and all of that, have a decent place for the person's remains to be until that occurs. And I give him honor and thank him for that. But he's a good man. He's done a great job for that position. So I'm hoping, I'm praying that y'all look very carefully at the person you put in that position. And I do know Mr. Campbell is very qualified. He has done a superb job as the coroner for Savannah, Chatham County. I know you had that Dr. Metz. He was another one that had been there for years and years and years and years. And it's time for Black people to take responsibility and be responsible for outstanding things that we can do. Our biggest problem was we didn't ever get the opportunity. And we're running all over the world talking about democracy. And that President Lincoln said at that time, it would cause people to think that we're a bunch of hypocrites. And that's exactly what we were. exactly what we were. 1/10 of the whole population being treated, but we pay taxes and we go to every war this country has ever had. The first man died in the American Revolution to start the nation was a black man. Christopher Attucks was his name in Massachusetts. So that we just not come on the scene. We've been fighting and fighting and fighting. And of course, I told you last month about, if you can remember, that I wanted you to see what you could find out by May 17th, 1954. Many of you are not born. And let me just say this before I get into that. And I want to talk about this young man. I have not met him, didn't know him, but I read his brochure, Mr. Middleton, Mr. Hall, been trying all the week to get hold of this young man. I would be glad for him to come on the show. He's running for Superior Court. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to you about the judicial system in this country. We all know it has been unfair. It hasn't been too long before white folks, well, I said the Supreme Court, I really should say that, to allow us to serve on juries. We always had to stand before 12 white people and never got justice. I mean, they murdered, they killed, they hanged people, done everything, and we go before a white jury. We were like trash. That's what we were treated, like trash. And we give our lives, our tax money, our service to this nation. And we've been doing that since 1619. Now, I wanted to tell you, and I told you I wanted you to look up about what you could read about May 17. And of course, I know a lot of y'all didn't do it, but we got to start reading. We got to let our children know how the trials and tribulation we've had as black people. Now, the Jewish people, they teach their children. When a young man is 12 years old, he goes through a process we call it baptism in our church, our religion, bar mitzvah. They learn everything they can about Moses, about the trials and tribulation of the Jewish people. And I have never been able to understand why they hate the Jewish people. We knew a lot of made black folk, you know that. But why did they hate the Jewish people? In the scriptures, unless you don't believe in the word of God, the Jewish people are God-chosen people. Now, if you go look in the book of Genesis, I should have gotten the chapter when I came on that show. And it tells you what God told Moses, Abraham, that he would give this land, the promised land, to you from the river of Egypt to the river of Euphrates. God spread the Jews all over the nation because of their disobedience, but he made a commitment years and years ago that they would come back to the Holy Land. And in 1948, they came back to that land. So justice is a very important thing, whether you're Jew, black, or what. And this nation has never treated black folk well. As I first stated, we gave our lives for this country. Now, when you think about slavery, I told the reason why I mentioned the 17th of May is because that's what I named it myself. And I'm hoping to try to write a book if I get somebody to transpose everything I'm writing down to let people know the things that went on in Savannah, Georgia. You have no idea of the struggle. You have no idea of the political power that we had in Savannah, Georgia. I'm telling you what I know because I was in it. And when these white politicians from the opposite side, like Republicans, when they got ready to run for office, we had such a strong voting bloc that they were behind 20,000, 25,000 to 30,000 votes before they even opened the door for registration and voting. So voting is a very important thing. So when you think about how we came to this nation, first thing we had, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm coming on up to what I call the second emancipation. First thing about it, they had what they call a triangular trade. And that was these merchants would go to the West Indies. The triangle is like that. Everybody know what a triangle is. And the three parts are triangular. They would leave New England, the part of the country like New England, Boston, Maine, and stuff like New England area. And they'll sail to the West Indies with with goods and stuff like that, and make it transporting and exchanging gifts and grade or whatever. Then they leave there to go to Africa with risk and all that trade. And they bought black folk, they stole black folk. And of course, when they brought them back to America, they brought them to a place called the Middle Passage. And the Middle Passage was the country of South America. And that was the middle part of the journey from South America to America. That's why they call it the Middle Passage. Well, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a little break, and then we'll be right back with you.
Transformative, that's what Sonia Jackson is. Creative, that's what Sonia Jackson is. Compassionate, that's what Sonia Jackson is. Leadership, that's what Sonia Jackson demonstrates. Dedicated, that's what Sonia Jackson is. Chatham County, there's never been a tax commissioner like Sonia Jackson. She has made the office more accessible, more consistent, more convenient, and more service-friendly. Let's keep Sonia Jackson while she takes the tax commissioner's office to new heights. On May 21st, cast your vote for a great public servant. Vote Sonia Jackson for tax.
Hello, I'm Richard Coleman, and I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Chatham County. And when I'm elected, I promise to inspect what I expect. Chatham County, it's time for a change, and that change is me, Richard Coleman.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back now. We do like the other people do, how they do on the big shows. Take a little break to gather your thoughts, particularly if you have a guest. But anyway, I'm back to where I was before we had the break. And that was when we talked about the Middle Passage. And of course, when it came to America, on the way from the Middle Passage, all these slaves were stored there like in a warehouse. And they brought them to this country. They took our women and just did everything with them. And when on the way back from trying to come to America, they all of them were chained together on the floor, and they're messing in their feces. And when they stand them up to stand up, when they get a little exercise, they tell them stand up, get a little exercise, and go eat. Then they right back there on the floor again, chained together. Terrible. And these were some of the things that we had to overdo, in which I will tell you about. Number one, we were in slavery from 1619 to 1865, 250 years working for nothing. And when I think about the book that I showed y'all one year, Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by a white woman who was a minister's wife. And she visited this plantation, talked to people how they were treated like animals. And one thing was sad to me as I read that little book was a little girl was about 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old, and the master sold her mother. Oh man, that went through me. Sold her mother, and the child cried all night long. Sold her mother, and the child cried all night long. And of course, then the first thing you had the abolitionists with Frederick Douglass and all those people constantly contacting President Lincoln. He was not, I read 5 books on him. He was not an abolitionist, but the man believed in dignity. The man believed in people being treated like a human being. If you really want to read something that moved you, get a copy. Many of you have computers. You can look it up. Read his second inaugural address. before he was shot dead in 1865. He talked about both of us, the North and the South, was asking God to give us victory. He talked about how black folk were with the whip. He talked about it. He said so many words, why you would God that would bless us when you're taking the bread out of a man's mouth while he's working you for nothing. That's in essence what it says. And then with that, he wanted to bring peace and unity among the nation, get back into the union. But people suffer so bad. And one of the main things that hurts me when you think about a man named Dred Scott, he was owned by a doctor. And the doctor was in the military, and he was transferred to Illinois. I think it was Illinois. And that was free territory. Now, at that time, we had about 13 states in the Union, so we went over the years from 13 to 50, but 13 states. And when he went to Illinois, the abolitionists worked with him, the people in the North, and filed a suit in the Supreme Court saying that since he was on free soil, then he ought to be turned loose as a slave. But the judge ruled he was property, in which he was. The doctor bought him. That was his property. And the judge told him in the first place, you had no right to bring a case to this court because you're not a citizen. That was one barrier we had to cross. Then when you look at the barrier, another one that's terrible was in 76. And that was the trial, was the case in which, after the Civil War, troops were in the South. And you had two men ran for the presidency. And to now, because of the increase in states, then at that time, the amount of electoral votes for you to win, so many states constitute electoral votes. That Georgia has so many electoral votes. All other states, based on the population, they're set up by the government. They have a commission or whatever they set up to do this. We have to have now 270 votes to be president, 270 electoral votes. And that's why Trump lied and had these people say they were electorals and all that. Now they're going to jail in Arizona. And big lies. He told a big lie the election was stolen. We all know that. But here's what happened. The South had Union soldiers. And at that time, blacks could vote. We had black people, believe it or not, was governors. We had black people with senators and all of that. That's the election of 1876. So what happened? The Republicans was getting tired of all this, trying to do this for black folk, And they were concerned about one thing, ladies and gentlemen, and that was money. So what did they do? The Republicans had a president, Russell V. Hayes. And Hayes was the president, and the Northern Republicans, the business people, to think about money. So they made a deal with the Democrat Southern people. Nobody had the total amount electoral votes needed. Hayes had about 20 votes short, but the man named Tilden, he only needed one vote to be president. One vote. And the South was tired of the servicemen, the army being there protecting black folk. So they made a deal. And the deal they made was this. If you take the troops out of the South, we will make you president. And that's what they did. Hayes sold out black folk, took the troops out of the South. Now just imagine, if the troops had stayed in the South for 50 years, 100 years, we would not have the race problem we have today. It might have been minor, but not all through these years where they were lynching people and didn't want to pass an anti-lynching bill. All of that, ladies and gentlemen, that black folk had to endure leading up to the point that I say the second emancipation, which I'll get to in a moment. Then after the lost election, the next thing we had was the terrible thing in 1895. 1895. I'm telling you the dates because you need to tell your children these things. And you should have had them listen to me where they could write the things down. Because what are they trying to do? They're trying to whitewash all the history. They want the white children to believe nothing. You know, a man called me one day in my office. I watched the television, and I answered the phone and said, "Hello, Mr. Thornton, please." I said, "This is he. What can I do for you, sir?" You know, Mr. Thornton, we got all this mess going about critical race theory and all that mess. And I said, hold it there, sir. Hold your horses right there. Don't make another step till I make the statement. I said this to him. You white people do not want the white children to know how terrible y'all were and how bad y'all treated African-American citizens of this nation. You don't even want them to read it. The man hanged the phone up in my face. Of course, I got next to him. He got that from nothing else. I told him what I thought about it. And that's what's happening today. Whitewashing the books. Never thought that would happen. But that remind me during Adolf Hitler time in Germany before the war, when they persecuted the Jewish people, 6 million they killed, babies they killed. And what happened, one of the things they did, and Germany was a very cultural country. Some of the greatest musicians, Beethoven, Mozart, all the great people, Germans, all of this, German writers and philosophers. And what they do, them foolish people, they'd have bonfire, burn all the books written by Jewish people. That's what they did. What they're trying to do today, they're not burn them, but they don't want children to read about a black folk accomplishment. They don't want people to read. The average person right now don't know right now when you go to the hospital. I'm talking about black. And you got to have an operation. You got to have blood. Where the the blood bank started from a black man, Charles Drew. He was a professor, did all that study in blood work at Harvard University. And he was so fantastic with the blood bank established in this country that the country of England employed him to work to set up a blood bank situation in England. So not all people know these things because I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we got to read. That's the only way. We got to help our children to read. Need to take our children to the library sometime. They got a children's section. It's more than just watching television. They got to read and expand their minds. So after that, they lost their election and they pulled the troops out the South. And when they pulled the troops out the South, that's when they went back to home rule and we were doomed. We were doomed as a people. And what had happened now, 1895, it was a man named Homer Plessy, Plessy, I think it's the name. Homer Plessy was not a black man, but he was a mulatto, brown-skinned man, because down in New Orleans, this happened that. All these races had a multitude of races in them, marriage and all that kind of stuff. And they encouraged him to get on a train. And when he got on the train, he sat in the white section, the section where white folk were sitting. And the only black person you saw there would be a nanny with the white children. And the doctor came by and asked him to move. He said, why should I move? I paid my fare. And they had him arrested. And when he was arrested, he filed a suit in the Supreme Court, 1895. That was a terrible time in our life. Look, I want you to keep in mind now, think about the triangular trade. Think about the man they would have given Dred Scott. Think about they pulled the troops out. All this suffering we having. Now we're in 1895. And what really disgusts me, please understand, I'm straight talk myself. When I read it, it really makes me angry. When I think about this 1895, and I want y'all to keep this in your mind. Now keep in your mind right now, 1895, and anybody want to get mad at me because what I'm about to say, call me on the telephone, 925-1034, and then I'll show you in the book. In 1895, the great educator, Booker T. Washington, great man, no question about it, started Tuskegee Institute. He had his hand in the pockets of the rich folk who built this country, who started the capitalist system in this country, like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan. Carnegie, there's the other libraries named after him, Carnegie Library, railroad man, all that man, just plenty of money. And because that man kept, one day, the cotton exchange, that was the number one item in the nation then, was exporting cotton. Rich folk, filthy rich, time filthy. And Booker T. Washington was going around the country, well, speaking, saying things like, the white people give us that our freedom. Let's take time, just that, they're going to mistreat us. We're going to come, our day, all of that. But like Frederick Douglass say, no one gives up. Martin Luther King said the same thing. Freedom from the oppressor. You got to demand it. So what they did, this time I'm going to take another break, just a moment or two to collect my thoughts. I'll be right back.
Come out to Port Wentworth on June 21st and celebrate Juneteenth with us. Bring the kids, your family, and your friends and enjoy a day of entertainment, history, culture, and fun. Don't forget, the Port Wentworth Juneteenth Festival is June 21st in Port Wentworth.
All right, I'm back on here. I hope you enjoy those nice commercials. I like the little break time and get a chance to see these nice commercials like they do on my favorite channel on television, MSNBC. So I've read it down in 1895. You had with the Cotton Exchange Organization, September 1895. Keep that 1895 in your mind now, please. That's very essential when I get to the end of this. Well, you had W. Du Bois, a great NAACP, a member and a writer and a great spokesman, everything about him. Author and all of that, brilliant man. First man to get a PhD from Harvard University. But anyway, he and Du Bois was always speaking in opposition to whatever. Mr. Washington wanted us to always use our hands and all of that, which is nothing wrong with that. But we all got some up here too. By using their brains. And so anyway, the big white organization, the Cotton Exchange Association, was so impressed with Mr. Washington, Mr. Booker T. Washington. He and Du Bois always had their debates and all that. And they invited him to speak in Atlanta, September 1895. Keep that 95 like I told you now. 1895. They invited him to speak. And when they invited him to speak, I can show you the book. He stood up in the big old convention hall, wherever they was meeting in Atlanta. He held up his hand like this. Listen to me. He said, in all things social. Now, we don't be around any white folk. Don't go down there what they're doing. You don't be invited to go nothing they have. We don't want to be involved in nothing they're doing. In all things social, we can be as separate as the fingers on the hand. But in all things for mutual progress, we can be like the hand. Now, if that's not calling for segregation, please tell me what segregation is. And he was ridiculed bad. They ridiculed him very bad. And then when he died, they found out something never got to the press, where he was saying how bad black folk was treating. They were the last one to get the pavements on their street done. They were the last person to get street lights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 1895. Now here comes the decision in 1896. Now, baby, this is it. This is what destroyed us, should not destroy the black race. 1896, Supreme Court had that decision on Plessy, because when he wouldn't get out that seat like Miss Rosa Parks, and they arrested him, he filed a suit. His name was Homer Plessy. They ain't gonna tell you that in the schools. I don't want y'all to know that on the record. Homer Plessy went before the United Supreme Court. They rendered a decision in 1896. And the decision was this: separate but equal. Oh, the white folk try to have everything. Next month, I'm going to tell you how they did with the schools and everything. Separate but equal. And it's always been separate, ladies and gentlemen, and never was equal. I'm going to get into the books again and tell you about all this I did last year. Separate but equal. Because one thing they said, oh, this great man, Mr. Washington, was saying we don't have to be together like that. All things social. And it was always separate. I had a white friend of mine telling me during the last election, he was supporting the man running for Congress, that Carter man. No, a black man, Dr. Carter, apologize. And he said, when he was a young boy over at Chatham School, was over there, Skagg got that building between Brady Street, 35th Street on Bull Street. His friend was having his mother with some books one day. The new books had come in, and it was just repackaging the old books. So what I'm saying, Miss Kohler, what are we gonna do with these books? Should we go throw them in the trash? Her reply was, no. We will send them to the colored children, to the colored schools. All books are worn out. Books white children are written in. We as a black race, ladies and gentlemen, we've been through hell. But something about God gave us as a black person, we can endure. We had to. I think about our forefathers, the way they struggled and worked for nothing. And that separate but equal went on for 80 years, 80. Everything was always separate, but never equal. Till May the 17th, 1954, when the NAACP with Thurgood Marshall, one of the great constitutional lawyers, I had a chance to meet him when I was president of the Youth Council. Never dreamed that one day I would see him on the Supreme Court. And when the NAACP started this organization in 1909, and I want y'all to know, white folks started in it. The black folks, they started in the NAACP. White people. Because they believe in justice. And he won that case. And I'm going to tell you a lot of things happened before he went into that case the next month. I'm sure some of the books of struggle people had to endure to get where we are today. And how the NAACP fought. We'll tell you about Mr. Clark. How the children look at dolls and, well, I can tell you about that now. When they look at a brown dog and a white doll, child went running to the white doll. We don't read our history, no. That's what I be trying to do. I know my days are not long. I thank God for what they are. I'm going on 91 years old, and I bless him every day. And I thank him for a strong mind that I still read. I still comprehend. But I know one day it's coming to an end. And I would like for somebody to say, well, I used to tell you about history, tell you about our people. We got to let our children know. We went from 1 week, Black History, to the whole month. I know Miss Natalie works with me. She's the lady of technology people, this person on the show. And I think last year she showed a wall that I had, a Black History wall from 1619 to the present, with leaders who really made the changes in our community. like Judge Gaston and even Bobby Hill. A lot of things y'all don't know about what went on back in 1954 until the 60s. You think about it. We've been in this nation since 1619, over 400 years. And right today, they want to announce the right to vote. If you don't think so, when the voting is on the 21st, and I don't know what's in Atlanta, state election, but this local here. But you go and stand in line and ask somebody to bring you a glass of water. When you do that, here comes the patrol behind you because they're going to put you in jail. All these type of things to keep us from voting. So we're still fighting a battle. We still oppress people. We got some freedoms. They could give us liberty, but we sure did not get equality. We got the shackles off us, but we still didn't get equality. And we've been behind the 8 ball for the longest. And what makes me so angry when you think about the struggle of the civil rights we did into the 60s, and we get people to sell us out to white people. Get rid of the going against this black person for a white person. And as I say, think we ought to vote for a white person because they endorse the white people. That's in the white man playbook. Go get some outstanding black folk that's known, get them to endorse me. I'm white. And we'll bring a lot of black people around, join the train and come right along with us. No, we got to think individually for ourselves, especially if we got a good qualified black person. I'm not saying good white people are not good. That's true. There are a lot of good white people. Rounds of psychosim and all of that. But they couldn't get into power without us. We wouldn't put them into power. When you think about 40, 50,000 votes, when you saw when the doors open for registration to vote, not registration to vote, and you already behind 50,000 votes before you even get started, that shows you got political power. The white man can't vote but one time. That's why they told them lies with Mr. Trump. But people voted 4 and 5 times. I think they found 1 or 2 discrepancies. And people fall in line with all that propaganda and that lie. And you know yourself, if Obama had been guilty of any of those things that Mr. Trump is guilty of, he'd have been out of that White House. He'd have been in jail a long time. I don't know why this man can't go to jail. All the things he's done, all the federal crimes he's committed. Now the Supreme Court going to be considering, can you crucify him and put him in jail? Is he allowed to have immunity while he's president? I was president. He's no better than nobody else over the law. And you got that woman down in Florida. I wish somebody would do an investigation to see whether or not that Cannon woman, whether or not she was one of his women. He appointed her to that position, and she's done everything she could to protect him. Now she don't want to, she put the trial off indefinitely. You know what that means? Whenever she wants to do it. And our nation is not the same. And if you read the history, sure enough, about it, world history, you read about Rome. Rome was the most powerful country in the world. The Pope years ago in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, he was the power. But Rome fell, not by invaders. It fell from within. The morals of our country. And these people running around saying they're so religious, all the evangelicals and all that. And I think I heard a man say on TV today, some group, some few of them are going against him. Why you want to put a man in the presidency with no character, no respect, no dignity, no respect for women? So remember the joke, not a joke, situation happened one time when Mr. Law, when we used to have meetings, said one time on Miss Bethune-Cookman, the lady that started Bethune-Cookman College. She and President Roosevelt's wife were close friends, Eleanor Roosevelt and Miss Bethune-Cookman. And one day she was on the train going someplace, and you know, you train your nod to go to sleep a little bit, and the conductor was do this and check to make sure you had your ticket. And she was then leaned over, nodded a little bit, and then he touched her, called her, wake up, shook her, wake up. And he said, Annie, I want to see your ticket, Annie. And she fixed him. She walked up. So you call me Annie. Which one of my sister children are you? That fixed it. Which one of my sister's children are you? You calling me Annie. So we have still got a long struggle to go, and we got vote covered up. We got to vote. That's a privilege to vote in this country, and they're trying to take that away from us. And then we got a strong judicial. Like I was saying, I was hoping to have met that young man, Mr. Mills. I read one of the things on his brochure, but then I didn't get a chance to meet him. But I was just speaking from the judicial aspect. I think all the time how important the judicial system is. I told you I mentioned long ago about all white juries. I remember back in the 50s, a young man named Ozzie Jones. Never shall forget. Mr. Law, Mr. Delaware, leaders of the black community. I was a young man, about 18, 19 years old then. They were taking leadership. I can't recollect who was the governor, but they were trying to get the execution turned into time in jail. But they went on to the last moment, and they executed Ozzie Jones. So I never forget that man's name. And look how long that's been in the 50s. Ozzie Jones, I guess because I was so devastated that they murdered this man in an electric chair. So he raped a white woman, and come to find out after all of that, the man couldn't even have no sex with no white woman. Nobody. The doctor was treating him and all of that. Took that man's life because he didn't have what? A fair judicial system. They put him in the electric chair in the first place. Right here in Chatham County, in the jailhouse. Call you all kind of names. Boy, how old a man has to be before you start calling a man a boy? Don't put a handle on your name, Mary, Janet, all of that. Sad. And you went all around the world saying you got a democracy, and I just got through telling you from all the way down to the separate but equal. And yet still, we're still not free. We're still not free. We're still being used, taken advantage of. They don't even want to pay you $15 an hour. Then they're lying and saying, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Biden got these prices. Biden ain't got no prices no high. He run Campbell Soup Company. He run Wholesome Bakery. These big companies all over the world and over the country, they're the one who got the prices up high because they're greedy and want to get more greed. But I tell you one thing, the solution. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. He said, Grover, I wish that could happen. I said, no, what we really need to do, they know, these organizations know that what the 100 big, I got 1 more minute to go, the 100 big companies in the world that produce food, the beef people, the egg people, all of that. Boycott for one, make a sacrifice for 6 weeks or less. The only thing they keep going is buy the milk for the babies and the baby food. And I guarantee you, the prices will come running down like nothing. They're the one got the prices high, so they can put more money in their pockets. They can enrich themselves even richer. Quit saying Mr. Biden got nothing to do with inflation. Some countries are higher inflation than America. It's coming down some, but that's the root cause of the inflation, is the manufacturers. Well, I'll be coming to the end of my show this week, but beginning next month, Lord's willing, I'm gonna finish telling you about the separate but equal. But we're gonna go into the colleges, and I'm gonna tell you what the first state that pushed us in to bring in May 17, 1954, that I call the second emancipation. That was the thing that freed black people, doing away with segregation in the public schools in this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take the time to say thank you all for listening. And I'm going to say again, I want you to vote. And next month, I will give us and to you the percentage of voting that won our election, the people that have been on this show. I've had quite a few people went on the show. The first 5 people that went on the show was about 60%. We had 5 people on the show, and 3 out of 5 won their races. So that was about a 60% rate. And so I will see it with all these people been on the show, about 8 or 9 people. when the election is over, that April, I'll see just what percentage that people coming on my show were the elected. So I want to say to you, God bless you. Have a good night, and thank you all for listening. And let us get to the polls and let us vote. God bless you. Thank you very much. Good night.
Like this.